Dr. Higgins. It's good to see you.
Hello, Jessica. Have you been enjoying class lately?
Yes, I've been enjoying your science lectures a lot, but I am confused why you believe in evolution. I thought that many scientists believe that Darwin's theories are unsupported by evidence, full of hoaxes, and just downright ridiculous.
Well, I'm glad you're taking the time to form your own opinion on this matter. However, many scientists believe that the evidence for evolution is stronger than it has ever been.
Really? What evidence? You are not going to talk about radiocarbon dating and the fossil record, are you?
No, we can skip those topics for the moment if you like. For a person like yourself who is studying evolution, I would direct your attention to our recent discoveries regarding DNA. DNA and how it changes over time is one of the key premises of evolution.
I'm aware of DNA, and I know scientists like yourself think that we evolved randomly through mutations.
And what is wrong with that?
Wonderful beings like ourselves could not have just evolved over time through mutations. Mutations usually disfigure a creature and give it an extra head or an extra leg, and it usually dies. There is no way that mutants could be a reliable tool for evolution.
I am glad we're having this conversation, Jessica, because you clearly don't understand what scientists mean when they refer to mutations. When scientists refer to mutations, they do not mean the three-legged cow or two-headed cat you referred to earlier.
Then what is a mutation?
A mutation is simply an error in your DNA. In fact, you received around 175 mutations from your parents when your DNA was formed. All living things have mutations in their DNA. These errors are passed silently from generation to generation, accumulating gradually over time.
But how can mistakes be a good thing? Wouldn't random mutations just produce chaos?
Not at all. Sooner or later, these mutations will spell out a whole new section of code in a creature's DNA. These new sections of code can give an animal new or modified features.
So when scientists claim that we evolved through mutations, they're referring to the new sections of code that would have been gradually built over time in our DNA.
Exactly. Please, don't ever confuse mutated offspring with genetic mutations again. Evolution has nothing to do with mothers giving birth to young with terrible deformities or ridiculous changes in their bodily form.
But if all living things carry mutations, then why don't we see amazing evolutionary changes every day? Why don't we see monkeys turning into humans?
It's all about time. Human DNA is made up of nearly 3 billion base pairs, so even tens of thousands of mutations is usually not enough to create any new code. The rate of mutations in animals is well known and documented. For evolution to happen around us, we need more time.
Yes, I've heard that excuse before. I could give you all the time in the world and I know that a monkey will never give birth to a human.
But it is deduction, and not wishful thinking, that makes scientists believe that this transformation is possible.
Really? Explain to me how.
Well, since all living things share DNA, and DNA can change, isn't it possible that one creature's DNA could slowly resemble another's?
Sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
Sure. Since all living things share DNA, and DNA can change, isn't it possible that one creature's DNA could slowly resemble another's?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Think of it this way. Scientists now know that human DNA is 98% identical to chimpanzee DNA. We can line the two codes up, side by side, and see the differences.
But what's the big deal about that?
Don't you see? We can now watch the development of chimpanzees. When a mother chimpanzee gives birth to a baby, that baby's DNA is now either closer or farther away to human DNA. It is an inescapable fact. Either the baby's DNA is more like or is not more like a human's.
Huh. But what about other animals? Let's take fish for example. Do you think fish would start to resemble reptiles if the right changes took place in their DNA?
Yes, absolutely. If a section of a fish's DNA changes into the same code found on a reptile's DNA, that fish will gain that reptilian feature.
but the chances of that happening are nearly impossible. How can a fish just happen to get all the millions of mutations that it needs to become an amphibian? It's a crapshoot.
No, it is not. A creature will receive exactly the changes it needs in its DNA through a process called natural selection. It is not hard to imagine this process at work. Let's imagine for a moment that a fish population undergoes several random mutations. One mutation gives the fish random bumps on the top of its head. Another mutation gives the fish random bumps on its belly. And finally, another mutation gives the fish serrated bumps in its mouth. Which of these mutations has the best chance of being kept and passed on to future offspring?
The serrated teeth.
Naturally. And now you can see that there is no crapshoot. Creatures may undergo dozens or hundreds or even thousands of mutations, but nature will only allow it to keep those changes that are the most beneficial.
I see. But that fish is still a fish. Yes, it may undergo a mutation or two, but it hasn't changed into an entirely new animal. We have seen the same with dogs. They can undergo many different types of genetic changes, but they always remain a dog.
As long as dogs are bred under the close scrutiny of their breeders, of course they will retain dog-like features. But imagine the bigger changes that could happen in the wild. Hundreds of thousands of years from now, wild dogs may grow to nearly twice their size, or gain extra claws, or develop wildly colored coats, or even have their bodies reshaped.
Those creatures still sound very dog-like to me.
Oh, come on. Must everything be spelled out for you? Extrapolate on what you already know. I talked about what dogs might be like 100,000 years from now to keep things simple. But imagine millions of years from now, and then hundreds of millions of years still further. Dogs by then will have undergone so many changes in their bone structure, organ function, appearance, and behavior that you could not in any sane way call it a dog.
I guess I see your point. After all, the skeletal differences between a wild wolf, Great Dane, and a pudgy bulldog are huge. And those differences were specifically directed by man. I can't imagine what dogs might become if left to nature.
Now you're getting it.
I think I really am. But as interesting as this discussion has been, we still have not discussed one real example of evolution. That seems to always be the case with you people. Why is that?
Showing you 1,000 fossils would have been no good if you thought it was impossible for one species to change into another. I needed to make sure you understood the role of mutations. I wanted you to see that when scientists talk about one creature evolving into another, there's no question or mystery as to how the change could actually take place. The story of evolution is basically about a code undergoing changes over time. That's it. It's not much more complicated than that.
The next time we meet, I'd like to look at some specific examples of evolution. And I don't want to look at tired old examples that I have seen before, such as Archaeopteryx or the skeletal remains of Lucy. Okay?
Okay. We will only look at the freshest and newest material I have available. No old arguments, I promise.
Well, this has been an interesting discussion. You have not proved evolution true in my opinion, but you've given me some interesting ideas to think about. I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Jessica. Now for all my friends in YouTube land, do you have any questions or criticisms for me? I'd love to hear your thoughts on my discussion with Jessica. Thanks for watching.